they appear to be bad facts, and then never let the witness answer the question. It's like Congress doesn't really want answers. They just want to put this information out there and then twist the answer, or cut off the answer and then say that the witnesses aren't answering. I don't understand why they don't ask a question and let someone answer it, and why this has to be about a political game instead of just what happened, why did it happen? Because it seems like the answer is more, there's an influx of all these political groups trying to get status as nonprofit organizations, and the IRS needs to come up with a method by which to discern who's really a political group, and are they really entitled to this tax? And they're not really asking questions for answers. They're just getting their political agenda out there.
Let's go to our Republican line. Brad is in Clover, South Carolina. Hello, Brad. Are you there?
Yes.
Go ahead with your comment.
Okay. I just want to comment on the IRS scandal.
Yes, sir.
I believe that through watching this, I think that it is a greater form of deception from the higher government. Especially when you go to looking at, private organizations, whether Democrat or Republican. That's to me, it's almost like there's a fine line between socialism and fineism, and we're defining something as higher than the state itself, and that is wrong. If the ethical process does not do something, I think you're going to have a lot of hot heads on the heel.
And the reason the Ways and Means Committee holding the hearing today is because of the Treasury Inspector General's report on the targeting of conservative groups by the IRS, certain conservative groups, although the Treasury Inspector General Russell George testifying this morning said that the report, quote, did not find that the agency's decisions were motivated by politics. That entire report is linked to on our website, cspan.org. Oklahoma City is next. Lee on the independent line.
Yes. My question is, of course, we're all outraged by what's happened, and thinking that someone is targeted is definitely an outrage. However, my biggest question is this. Why should a political group organizing around a 501c4 status or any tax-exempt status be allowed tax-exempt? I believe that if you're going to have a political statement to be said, you have a right to have that said, but it isn't a right to have it tax-exempt. And no one's asking that question. Why is that? Why are those groups allowed in there? And I think that when we get to that question, that is when the real meat of the subject will begin to be talked about.
Let's see what the folks on Twitter are saying. We're using the hashtag IRS. Here's one from Jennifer, who tweets, does the GOP really think they sound intelligent with their method of questioning? Another here from Greensboro, North Carolina. The flat tax is looking more attractive than ever. It's fair, simple, transparent, and does away with the agency's ability to persecute. One from CR says, I think it would be more efficient to replace Miller with a cardboard cutout for Congress to yell at. And finally from Naomi, I don't know who raised these folks, but none of them have a conscience that tells them they must tell the truth. The hashtag is IRS. Bill's in Christine in Arroyo Grande, New Mexico. I hope I have that right. Democrats line? Are you there? I think we lost her. Bill in Orchard Park next up. We go to Orchard Park. Bill, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Wilson, New York.
Okay, got you. You're on a Republican line. Go ahead with your comment.
Yes, I am kind of watching these hearings for the last couple of weeks on going on from Gonzi and all these other ones. And all these people brought up in front of these different committees, they all dance around the questions that are asked from both sides. Why can't they just answer truthfully and honestly if it's going on instead of doing what they're doing by dancing around the question? It's either they do know what's going on or they don't, or they're lying, which 90% this Miller seems like he's doing, to protect someone. Who is he protecting by lying? And he's going to resign. Clinton fired him or nothing, but Obama fired him, but he's done it in the middle of next month anyways, because his appointment is up.
We are live in the Longworth House Office Building. Ways and Means Committee meeting this morning to look at allegations of targeting of conservative groups by the Internal Revenue Service. The committee in recess for a couple of votes on the House floor. Wanted to share you the comments of California Republican Devin Nunes, who asked Stephen Miller, the outgoing IRS head, why he's resigning.
You really are not taking any acknowledgement that you knew anything, that you didn't do anything wrong. You've said that numerous times on the record today, that you did nothing wrong. So I find it hard to believe, why did you resign, or why are you resigning?
I never said I didn't do anything wrong, Ms. Nunes. What I said is contained in the questions. I resigned because as the acting commissioner, what happens in the IRS, whether I was personally involved or not, stops at my desk. And so I should be held accountable for what happens. Whether I was personally involved or not, a very different question, sir.
From testimony just a short while ago, live coverage continues when the committee gavels back in. Continue with your calls to Odessa, Texas. Matt on the independent line.
Yes, I think that the IRS has way too much power, and they're abusing it at this point, and that the American people have seen what's happened. We need to go to a flat tax and totally eliminate them. Let them go get a real job digging ditches for a living. They could get out in the air, get them some good air, and build up their muscles and actually do something to contribute to the country by fixing the roads and the bridges. Thank you.
Spring, Texas is next. A Democratic caller on the Democrats line anyway. Tony, hello.
Hello, good day. Do you think that since the matter of the 50C4s came to the Supreme Court, then should it not have been incumbent on Congress to look at the law and clean up any and all discrepancies? Because if the matter went to the courts, it means that there is differences in interpretation between the different groups. That it is the Congress that sets the law. Therefore, when a matter has to go to and reaches the Supreme Court, it should be the Congress's duty then to come back and look at that law and clear up and clean up any discrepancies and loopholes.
So
Congress failed to do that.
Do you think, Tony, the Supreme Court decision then muddied the waters about these political groups or issue groups?
Of course it did. Of course it did. There were some groups that should be 501c4s, but there are some that are do not serve in a social any social necessity, but are directly just political groups. Congress, and it's Congress's duty to write the laws. If the laws are challenged, they should look at the loopholes and clean the loopholes up.
Do you know the difference between a 501c4 and a 501c3?
I don't know the exact difference, but it just seems as it is based on the amount of money that is taken in.
Okay.
The way the law is, it doesn't. The 501c3s are open. The 501c4s are specifically for work around in not even on a national basis, but work within your states, etc., and mostly for social work.
Tony, thanks for sharing your knowledge on that. Thanks for joining the conversation. Ronnie is in Cottonton, Alabama, Republican line. Ronnie, hi.
Hey, how you doing today?
Fine, thanks.
I'd like to know why every time a congressman that's a Democrat asks the gentleman a question, they're always saying, well, this was just a mistake, and we need to clarify that. If it was such a mistake, why was it that we didn't hear a thing about it? It always seems to go to the top, but no one has to take liability for it. And when the Republicans try to find out why this was done, all the gentleman can say is, well, I answered that question. I answered that question. It seems like all he's doing is covering his tracks to where he got the right to do it from above and seems like everything is cut off from there.
A couple more of your phone calls. Let's check Facebook first, though. Facebook.com/C-SPAN. We posted a question for you. Posted the posting last night about our coverage. Here's what Deb has to say. Excuse me, Derry Fisher says that why do we permit the IRS to have this power over our lives when we can have a fair tax system? Mike says, interesting that in Levin's opening statement, he's talking about Senator Levin, he warned Republicans about making this hearing political. And then he goes on to make it political in his first question. Facebook.com/C-SPAN is where you go. Connie is in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. She's on our Democrats line.
Yes, I would like to just point out one thing that has worked right in this whole problem with the IRS, and that is the IG system. It brought the problems to light, as it should. It just acted pretty slowly in getting them, in assisting in getting them resolved or enabling them to be resolved. It acted too slowly, and maybe it wasn't comprehensive enough in its analysis. It has problems in those areas, partly due to the layering of our governments and governmental agencies, and the IGs are not truly independent, and their independence has to be bolstered. And that would help them to work faster. And I would like to just, endorse what Tony said earlier. He brought up Congress's failure to address new issues as they come up, and I would add to exercise sufficient oversight over these programs. Instead, they have a hearing like this, and they use it for grandstanding and political purposes instead of really exercising oversight. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Connie points out the Inspector General's report. The Inspector General, the Treasury Inspector General, who is leading that report, is testifying this morning before Ways and Means, in addition to Mr. Stephen Miller. You can read that report on our website at cspan.org. You see Sandra Levin, the ranking Democrat, coming back into the room. Let us see if we can get one more call here. Tony in Charlotte, North Carolina. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, it just seems to me that since Citizens United, the rules were not clear, number one. I agree with the previous caller. And obviously the workload for the IRS increased threefold. So, and they were trying to, not wise looking back, but obviously trying to separate the workload in such a way to move it along with a whole new process. So, as an outsider looking in, as an old businessman, I think I can understand you got an increase of workload, and how are we going to get this thing done?